Rickety old thing. Endless, desolate. I remember now. Leo Dormer. My little brother. This is the night I find him. An archive of my published articles. The ones rescued from the censors, anyway. This lot holds my official documents. Houses change, the paperwork remains. Our guardian's death certificate is in there. Mentions an address where Leo lived at the time. Leo Dormer, residing at 17 Taibao Street. Good start. But I have no idea where that is. Crowded, gridlocked, choking on smog. But it doesn't look half bad from here. Government issued. I can search my personal files, plus a few public databases. I load a map of the city. There. 17 Taibao Street. It's in the New Territories. Barking dogs, broken bottles, that kind of neighborhood. Didn't expect any better from Leo. Padlocked. I yank on the chain. Won't budge. I wonder if I can locate a key somehow. Boarded up. Pile of household debris. The usual trinity. Bed frame, broken lavatory, dirty mattress. I press the button. A crackle. Smoker's voice on the other end. Angry old man. He sounds divided. Shout at a stranger to scram. All good excuse for a rant. I switch on the reporter charm. Ranting it is then. I explain that my brother used to live at number 17. The name rings a bell. They didn't interact much but had been on good terms. Leo helped the old man carry a bed frame upstairs when he moved in. Solid wood, too. He also recalls a gathering to celebrate Leo's university enrollment. Is he certain? About the university part? Yes, he says. A local university, although he can't remember which. Leo moved out soon after and was never seen again. But he was very proud of that, becoming a student so late in his life. Does he remember the university name? UMC or GMU, he says, something with 3 letters. He apologizes. His memory isn't what it used to be. I thank him anyway. So what happened next door? He sighs. A few years ago, the landlords hired a company to renovate it. They never completed the job, and the place was left to rot. Is that why it's boarded up? No, he says. The orphans are to blame. They set up camp next door. They rummage through bins. Break into empty properties. He even tried to sell him his own rubbish after he throws it out. Scavengers, he calls them. No good scavengers. Could they be selling items found at number 17? Of course, he says. They'd sell you their own mothers if they could. Not that they have any, I say. No response. The landlords. He's never met them, but wouldn't mind a word or two about the mess. What can he tell me about the renovating company? Wouldn't hire them myself, he says. What did they find in the house? He recommends I ask the orphans directly. How can I access the house next door? He has no idea. I thank him for his time. Be careful out there, he says. Unlocking one won't open the other. Good place to leave a key. I peer inside. Empty. Tarp, makeshift home. Homeless folks, empty houses, all within spitting distance. I venture a few questions. Conversation proves difficult. I'm not sure we speak the same language, or maybe he has no interest in talking to me. Number 17. What does he know about it? He doesn't understand. I take great care to ensure he gets the point. Number 17. You. Find. Me. Buying. A light is switched on. He reaches into his bag, revealing worthless junk. A bundle of pens, elastic bound, rusty motherboard, ancient photo frame, chipped wood, slim pickings. I toss him a coin for his trouble. Does he know how to enter the house next door? A key, maybe. I don't think he gets the question. I think he's done. He just waves at the objects on the ground. Got to admire the salesmanship. It's made of wood. Chipped varnish. Nothing unusual. Our photograph would fit in it, but that proves very little. A bundle of branded pens. Says ULS on them. It says ULS on them. The old man mentioned a 3-letter university name. Long shot, but worth investigating. Leo is many things. A drunk is not one of them. L-line. Loops around the city. There are dozens. I need to know my destination. They've renamed every station. I don't recall seeing it on any maps. Maybe a few more questions. The old man picks up. Got nothing better to do, he says. I mentioned the initials. Do they sound familiar at all? ULS, he says. That's the University of Life Sciences. vaguely remember reading about it. Some riots halted construction a few years back. The building now appears simultaneously demolished and incomplete. Say no to the new lab. Can't even make out what it says. Doesn't seem to be wired to anything. Tipped on its side, rusting. No idea what it says. They seem pretty out of it, barely synced to the beat. How can they rest with that racket? Body rolling, eyes closed. She knows I'm staring. Doesn't stop her from dancing. I command her attention. Hard to keep it for long, music's blaring. She slurs her words, won't stop moving. From what I gather, she's been dancing for 56 hours straight. All of them have. It's her event, she explains. Insomnia, a monthly gathering. Like-minded folks testing the limits of sleep deprivation. No stimulants, she says, just music and light. Kids these days. Anyway, time for questions. I ask if the name sounds familiar. It does not. Why did she choose the university? I thought it was a church, she says. Okay. That will do for now. A faded printed note. Statue project, led by Dormer. Proposals by Friday. Led by a certain Dormer. This has to be a coincidence. Or is it? I wonder what the statue project is. A sketch of a statue. Some kind of insect playing the harp. Someone annotated it with a red pen, suggesting the design was approved. The same person also penned a playful acrostic. B is for brilliant. I is for intellectuals. O is for of. E is for exponential. T is for ta. There used to be more, but the ink has bled. It must be one of the proposed designs. Was my brother the Dormer in charge of the project? Did he approve it? The symbolism might be significant. The acrostic could also be a clue. Two copies of the same memo. One more faded than the other. Terminal blacklist, students protest. Anderson A. Ange L. Betty G. Chopra D. Chun L. Dama W. Do L. D. The rest is illegible. Not his full name, but some initials match. Can't track down all the students, but I should investigate the protest. small-scale version of the university includes a statue of a torch-wielding man. There's a quote on the miniature plaque, "So that society may gain wisdom as fast as science gathers knowledge." Yes, albeit 10 times smaller. I'm surprised they didn't tear it down. It's intense. A notice about parking vehicles. Some content is missing. Final notice. Vehicles without authorized, forcibly removed from the "Please ensure necessary before parking outside the..." Temporary address forwarding. Biochem, 7A Market Street. Biophysics, 64 Signmakers Yard. Ecology, 86 Keshwang Place. Ethics of Biology, 341 Belvedere Heights. Virology, 65C Crofton Place. Please confirm with office before. This one is upside down. Following last week's. All purchased equipment. That won't get me far. Please ensure you necessary preparations. AB. Animal rights, biology, and a large section on bioethics. Structural, synthetic, and systems biology. All topics found in the ST sections. The C to D section. Books on cell and developmental biology. Looks like the bookcases are not in alphabetical order. D for Dormer. No, the books are organized by discipline, not author. BIOET. It must spell bioethics. I browsed several publications on the topic. One catches my attention. Academic paper on toxic fungi, military operations, weaponized mycotoxins by Amrita Thomas. But it's the endorsement on the back cover that stops me in my tracks. A quote by Leo Dormer, PhD, author of Sinking the 30 Oars Ship. Professor of Bioethics and Ethics of Biology. I assume it's about bioethics, but they don't keep a copy. There's something. The moral standing of insects. Academic stuff. Won't help me identify the statue. It's too vague to be referenced. No mentions of bioethics. But there is an address for the Ethics of Biology Department. 341 Belvedere Heights. I expect it might lead me to a colleague or fellow professor. But this is Leo's home. I tap the screen. Who are you visiting today? Visiting Leo Dormer. Please use the authentication panel. My fingers slide into metallic slots. The machine trills. Genetic match. I could climb it, but I'd still be outside the property. A family man. I had no idea. Toddler-sized. A family man. I had no idea. I knock. No answer. It's unlocked. I make my presence known. The call is met with complete silence. It reads, now death threats, wiping footprint. Uncle L in panic room, signed M. Marble musical instrument. Looks antique. 2 series of numbers are engraved. 6998 and 4543. Remember, Panoptis, not in your average shopping list. Moving platform, designed for reduced mobility. I try knocking. No answer. The panel will open it. It wants a password, of course. If Uncle L is Leo, we have a relative of some kind. The death threats. Who hasn't received 1 or 2? But I am curious. Dear Professor D, you'll soon be back to your old self. Multiple signatures. Inessa. Min. XT. Esteban. ready for me to type something. Exotic, healthy. I've heard it helps them grow. This one seems to be doing fine. Ancient seafaring vessel. The painting isn't signed. Let's see. 2 books with his name on them. Immortal morals. Ancient myths and beliefs, viewed through a modern scientific lens. Sinking the 30 Oars ship, preempting the shortcomings of the biohacking revolution. Immortal morals. Ancient myths and beliefs, viewed through a modern scientific lens. The number of oars seems to match, but that doesn't help me much. Sinking the 30 Oars ship, preempting the shortcomings of the biohacking revolution. As expected, a vast selection of books on the subject. I'm certain bioethics and biohacking are linked, but not sure how that helps me. Data destruction cycle incomplete. 186,570 files successfully deleted. Some files could not be deleted. Interesting invoices. Leo runs a lucrative business as a bioethics consultant. Clients include government bodies, law enforcement agencies. No specifics about the services provided. Could explain how he affords this house. One file. A blueprint of the house. Shows every room of the house. No hidden passages, sadly. I see the panic room, not how it opens. Correspondence with the university board. An incomplete draft grabs my attention. Leave of absence. I'm showing growing concern, less for my deteriorating health than the influence held by indoctrinated parents over the university board. Poor health, antagonistic. I'm not exactly surprised. Doesn't mention it by name, but it explains why he's not teaching. Leo's original university application, titled Why Bioethics Matter. They liked it so much that it was printed in the university newspaper. Leo's original university application, titled Why Bioethics Matter. They liked it so much that it was printed in the university newspaper. Can't tell if they're waves or clouds. End-of-life technology. I thought it was illegal. It's empty. He's not in it. Points to ailments. Points to connections and deep pockets. Get well cards are the opposite of death threats. The numbers could be a password. The word password. That's not the password. I have a good feeling about these. But no, not even with different combinations. Maybe she knows the password. Maybe she is the password. I have exceeded the number of possible attempts. But I now have the option to reset the password. Security question 1 out of 3. First published piece. I assume it means Leo's first book. Antique brass spyglass. Can't see anything with it tonight. Leo's original university application, titled Why Bioethics Matter. They liked it so much that it was printed in the university newspaper. They did publish it in the university newspaper. Yes, it was published in the ULS newspaper. Found a draft he was going to send to the institution. It justifies Leo's leave of absence, citing health concerns and clashing ideals. From bright-eyed optimist to cynic. Can't fault him for it, really. It was called Why Bioethics Matter. Okay, 1 down. Security question 2 out of 3. Mother's birthday. I know that one. There. Nice of Leo to finally include her in his life. Security question 3 out of 3. Grasshopper lover. No idea what it means. And it's not even a question. A grasshopper. Maybe the insect is meaningful after all. Statue plaque draft number 1. Incomplete wish, robbed of humanity. Metamorphosis, music playing insect. Myth of Tithonus, so that's who the insect represents. name is indexed. Cursed lover of Eos, goddess of the dawn, begged the gods to grant him eternal life, yet forgot to ask for eternal youth, often represented as a cicada or grasshopper. Grasshopper. Lover of Eos. That must be it. Numbers 6998 and 4543 mark two circled areas on a map. The numbers 6998 and 4543 mark two circled areas on a map. I do not know what it represents. The numbers are written on it, not coordinates as far as I can tell. The answer. Grasshopper lover. Eos. This is the night I find him. Leodorma. My little brother, an old man on his last breath. He begs me not to go. The words ring like a curse. Iris, he says. Springs. He warned me about this place. Yet here I am. Yellowing, unlabeled. Already found him. I would need to understand it first. Late teenage years. Looks like he's been baking in the sun for a while. I point at the sign. Is this the stop for Phoenix Springs? Is that such a crime, he asks. To change my mind, I don't know what to say to that. I ask about my brother. His eyes roll at the mention. That name again, he sighs. Wherever I stand, he says, no matter what I do, there's forever a crying one asking about Leodorma. I press him. There's crying ones everywhere, he says, with a dismissive wave of the hand. What did he mean by a crying one? He says he's had enough wailing to last him a lifetime. Plenty of cries, he says, past the 101. Strange combinations of words declaimed like idioms, like I should know what he means. What did he mean by the 101? A place, a person, a sacred being. He asks where I heard the name. It came from his mouth. Blank stare. Then a memory. I must leave this place. Another. That's why I'm off to the sea. Enough for the time being. But he has a question for me. Will I join him? When he goes to the sea. I study study his eager, anguished face. Maybe I lie. This appeases him somehow. Could be some kind of code. I wonder if I can set the destination. Nothing happens. It's all pre-programmed. Does the train go to Phoenix Springs? I'm going back to the sea, he says. The boy is testing my patience. He avoids the question. I think he let it slip. I think I've heard enough. The number doesn't appear here. Doesn't even show the station. Some of them do look like digits. The wind will carry my voice. Then what? Something about this specific formation. Truly resembles the three numbers. This is how I make it to the Oasis. Green crater in the heart of the desert. Its gravity. It pulls me. Imposing, unusual ring pattern. Rebellious streak in her. She should be chewing gum. What are you? She asks. I tell her I'm a reporter. A dog chasing her tail, she says. What's a reporter without news? I'm not sure. We shouldn't talk anymore, she says. One of many confusing conversations here. My interlocutor can volunteer information. My information doesn't quite reach them. Freshly made, drying in the breeze. Freshly made, sun-dried. Maybe. But for what purpose? Tracing symbols. The focus of a scholar whose eyes were trained on fine print. Her work. I can't tell if it's an alphabet. Mathematics? No, it's bigger than that, she stammers. What can she tell me about Phoenix Springs? She launches into and aborts multiple metaphors. It's hard to follow. Something about the taxonomy of chemicals. I realize she's talking about the name, not the place. She's not fond of the name. Can't get anything else out of her. I mention Leo. She exhales. History, she begins. The thing with people. The complexity of the answer overwhelms her, like she's failing to be exact with her wording. Wrestling with ungraspable concepts. Still, no clues about my brother. I ask if the name sounds familiar. I can see I'm confusing her. Seems genuinely puzzled for a beat. Strange scribbles. Full of water, floating fibers. A bundle, sliced into thin strips. It's to pound vegetation into pulp. Vacant stare, just sitting there. Does he live here? No, he says, I'm trying to escape. I tell him the door isn't locked. That's why my plan will work, he says. My plan is patience. Right. Can I ask him questions? Wait long enough, he says, and the answers come to you. He doesn't speak again. Potpourri of dehydrated petals, fruit, bark. The smell is somewhat domestic, like scented candles or a relative's washing powder. One eye closed for perspective, gauging a big scale with big hands. I clear my throat. I will answer, he says, as if handing out gold. What does he do here? Nature takes substance and makes a horse, he explains. Melts it down for a tree or a person. I am nature, he says. Carbon dated to eons. Nothing helpful to say last time I asked. I ask about my brother. Sculptors must see from all sides, he says. Like time, we remove more than we add. Very close to talking about himself in the third person. Nothing helpful to say last time I asked. Heard the name before? Prompts him to gush about himself. His art, his process. Says he birthed every rock here. The dust calls him by name. That will do. The work, he says, will be unrivaled. An art form that doesn't have a name yet. Good luck to him. Carved stone slabs, towering painted figures. Makes the place what it is. Picture of health. Lean limbs, clear skin. I'm stretching, he says. So I see. The secret is to extend past your standard range of motion. There is a binary between mind and body, chaos and cosmos, other and self, imaginary and real, matter and form, sacred and profane. He goes on. The man can talk, but not listen, apparently. The reporter's hunch. Some of these folks aren't worth my time. Deep in thoughts, unclothed. 2 fingers on his left wrist. He's monitoring his pulse. Health concerns? He presents his artery as evidence. I anticipate an anomaly in the data, he says. Stiffness in the hinges. Fever to cook the mind. This heart never stutters. He sounds almost let down. The only unknown, he says, is your influence. Maybe I shouldn't be here. Correct, he says. None of us should be here. What are you? She asks. Still a reporter. You're right, she says. People don't change. Not sure I agree. Look who's talking, she says. Not bathing as much as caressing the surface. How's the water? If you float long enough, she says, the body mistakes gravity for motion. Sounds risky. To incubate means to lie down, she says. You should try it. Flour and greyish paste. Both rock hard and breaking down. No, that doesn't seem right. This one's for baking. Full of ashes and charred crust. Why? Grotesque carvings. Distorted features. Miniature versions of the cabin I'm standing in. They're identical, even in their defects. Wooden, rustic. Not in use. I'm not the best at consoling people. Is she okay? Can I help? I'm sorry, she says, like a child who disappointed her parents. What for? I don't remember, she sobs. Is she safe here? Anyone to speak to? She shrugs. I have no idea. Someone around here asked about Leo Dormer. Does she know him? It's possible, she says without much conviction. I don't feel great about pressing her, but this is crucial. It backfires. She breaks down. I'm going under soon, she says, and I can't remember my own name. I can't remember my craft. I can't even remember what I look like anymore. She's the best lead I have so far. I must jolt her memory. Any pointers? Initials? Nothing. What does she mean by craft? She answers with another question. Why did they have to make the words so ugly, she asks. I'm unsure what she means. They replaced my instructions, so I had to burn them, she explains. That's why I don't remember, she says. I don't remember what I'm supposed to do. I describe her features. Slender frame, shoulder-length hair. No, she protests. That's all wrong. Where did she burn them? Why? Why, she asks back. Why did they make the words so ugly? The topic confuses and upsets her. Goes nowhere. Okay, I should take it easy on her. It's entrancing. Her reflection in the water. Worth trying. have an idea. Will she follow me? She hesitates. Yes. I lead her to the water. What she sees in there horrifies her. I know you, he says. Used to read all your articles. Sounds more like scorn than flattery. Under his breath, he calls me a traitor. Did I hear him right? You either live your culture or destroy it, he says. There is no in-between. The instructions aren't in there. Could be, but I need proof. Couldn't outlast the elements. Catching the lizard-like. I was a real butcher, he laments. A proper rat, apex creature. He burps and retches. I'd gut your office, he says. I'd strip the premises. Even sniffed out a font that saved money on ink. Enjoying the fumes a bit too much. Must be the springs. Hollow, ominous. Buzzes gently. Filled with rotting fruit. Stacked head high, pyramid-like. He inquires first. What happens when you place a mirror in front of another mirror? I don't know. Some kind of infinity. You have two mirrors, he says. The thought tickles him. He giggles. Don't know why I expected wisdom. Maybe it's the tree. Elder giant. I ask if she's okay. She shoos me away. You're making me forget the tune, she says. What are you? She asks. What about her? What is she? She scans the trees. Me, I'm secret police. We shouldn't talk anymore, she says. Cyan beauties. But the stench. Like sour sweat. Bright red, but with a green smell. Herbaceous, mint or dill. Striking black petals. Their perfume has a mouldy tinge, but not unpleasant. Reminds me of the earth after the rain. Plain roses with a woody smell, like a mixture of sawdust and tree sap. Pointy, orchid-like. Strong smell I can only describe as medical. Cleaning fluid or disinfectant. Poppy-shaped, yellow. Rancid smell, like a smoker's lips or fingertips. Eccentric posture. Stroking petals as if coaxing an alley cat. Her patience only extends to the flowers. She shushes me with full force. They won't blossom before the moon, she says. He asks why is it so hard to get a straight answer these days. It's all disjointed here. I tell him I've just arrived. I can't trust anyone, he says, moping. Those trees by the river, they weren't there yesterday. Another sock puppet spewing out nonsense. Calm, calming. Thought they were apples at first, but there's a smoky, acrid fragrance, like an old train station or forest fire. Head-sized, tough, shelled fruit. The ripest ones smell zesty and sweet. More a bush than a tree. Its berries have a briny, fishy aroma. Some kind of plums. The emanating smell is rich, wholesome, like toasted grain. The grass is disgusting, he says. I'll have the servants remove it. I used to tell my sister to tuck the cables under the desk. Keep the ugly buried. All that plumbing, all that machinery. He repeats that he can't trust anyone. Could be her work. I'd like confirmation before I submit it to her. Too easily confused. Sketch her. I'm not skillful enough. Someone else might be. Why? The girl. She needs help remembering things. I'm trying to, she says, pointing at her work. Where could I find written instructions? Her ears prick up at the mention. If you do find them, bring them over, she says. I must check all writing for consistency. I want to sympathize or at least understand, but I fail to see how she's helping. Language is a material, she says. Yet we build with clay that's as brittle as boiled bones. Pinches the bridge of her nose in frustration. Or is it bird bones? She's lost me. It's hard to convey, she admits. She claims she's helping. I don't understand how, and I'm not convinced. Fresh ashes. I run my hand through paper-thin cinders. There is also paper in there. Erdnak. Step 1, illegible. But that must be the instructions. I would need a good reason. Fresh ashes. Enjoying the fumes a bit too much. The instructions came on paper. Doesn't tell me what it is. I have the feeling it's a different language. I mentioned the word. Erdnak, she repeats, relishing the clacking consonant. Erd, she explains, was meant to sound harsh. In that context, it meant cooked or baked. Nak, she continues, was a shape. Rectangular, to be precise. So, a baked rectangle? That would make sense, she smiles. This one's for baking. Full of ashes and charred crust. But what is the rectangle? Bread would be baked and rectangular. I wonder what the girl makes of it. Would be right for baking, but it's empty except for crumbled bricks. Although, rectangular, baked. Is that what I'm after? Bricks. I should check with the girl. Made of them. Also where they're made. She mentioned building bridges, but I don't know how it could help. it was the right choice. I report my findings. An erdnak is a baked rectangle. Oh, she says. But what is that? Good question. Does she know how to bake bricks? 77% mud, she recites. 19 sand. 4% straw. A glint of recognition. Gratitude, even. I bake bricks, she affirms. I build bridges that break. Mason is the name I was given here. That is my craft. She's beginning to remember. Yes, that'd be her main tool. Did she work on them? The sight appears to pain her. I don't think I'll mention it. I approach with caution. She senses my presence. I was promised so much, she says, but it doesn't print. Why burn the instructions here? I doubt she even knows. Doesn't strike me as rational. Doesn't exactly inspire confidence. If you float long enough, she says, the body mistakes gravity for motion. I've heard it before. What are you? She asks. I play along. Why is the secret police here then? My superior was so boastful, she says, bragging about her 50 years of experience. With all due respect, I told her, sounds to me like you've had 1 year of experience 50 times. I bet she didn't like that. We shouldn't talk anymore, she says. A headless builder brandishing a trowel. The plinth has been defaced. What remains are 3 letters, S-O-N. Doesn't feel like her, and yet the letters match her name. The trowel makes sense. Is that the same person? Let's see if it awakens anything in the girl. I recognize a vial. The rest fell apart. Sanitary clothing, surgical mask, skull cap. The eyes are remarkably lifelike. Another vandalized inscription. I can make out the last 3 letters. E-O-N. Muscular kneeling man. Untitled artwork. This one's a lonely limb. No markings on the plinth. I talk and he appears to listen. Never utters a sound, but my words do get through to him. What does he make of this place? His fingers dip in the sand. Elegant, clean strokes. 5 concentric circles. I know he can speak, he simply chooses not to. Is it a map of some kind? Does he recognize the name Leo Dormer? He wipes his art clean. A new sketch. Is that my photograph? I'm positive that's a young version of him. Does he know her? He shrugs. Who knows or even cares? I thought of these people as neighbors. They're isolated planets whose paths don't overlap. I mention her. A new sketch. Childish scribbles. Is he mocking me? No, he seems dead serious about it. I doubt it can help her in any way. I doubt it can help her in any way. No, I should mention it to the girl. Does he know what the statue used to look like? He answers with a portrait. Is that the same person? Now his finger rises towards a white moon. The light changes. One of those night skies more solid than the earth itself. He's done here. I never get to show her the portrait. The ritual begins. A mechanical march. I know exactly where it leads. The heart of the Oasis. It's all there, the smells and bells of worship, with none of the fervour. The congregation goes through the motions. I find myself neutered, toothless. Spectator of a sequence 100 times witnessed. In the face of unspeakable violence, my mind wanders. The acoustics in the sanctum must be wired for sound. The smoke is anaesthetic. It stings the eyes, and water has an oily quality. It rises and smells faintly of roses. Washes my doubts away, dulling edges, until only the sharpest shape remains. Leo Dormer, my little brother. This is the night I find him, after so many years apart. He is expecting me. An old man on his last breath. The night I learn everything about him. He says he can't recognize his face. with regret. He begs me not to go. The words ring like a curse. Iris, he says. Don't go to Phoenix Springs. Yet here I am. No accident. Looks to me like it fell from a great height. Knock hard on something hard, he says. I should be building buckets, not fixing everybody's mess. Has he heard the name? We aren't supposed to do names, he says. I'm not sure what that means, but I pinpoint what repels me. Not the pent-up violence or disdain. He's a stickler. How do I find Phoenix Springs? Already there, he says, not missing a beat. Thanks for nothing. I am no guide, he hisses. I am no tarot card. I have dignity and needs. Not a chance. Something about this specific formation. It's a gate, a portal. A tunnel that sucks me in. This is how I make it to the Oasis. Green crater in the heart of the desert. Its gravity. It pulls me. I'm stretching, he says. So I see. Wake up and think. Empty myself. Do my sums. Eat. So you see? It's mind, body, like alternating current. Some say it's one, but the binaries won't meet. He goes on. The man can talk, but not listen, apparently. Someone gather the ripest ones. I noticed some of the harvest is rotting. Human hubris, she says. That's what fruit is designed to do. Does she know my brother? I was taught some grass is bad, she says, and some is beautiful. It seemed so arbitrary. All plants are miracles to me. She pauses, pinches and plucks a leaf. Grass becomes a weed, she says, when it takes more than it gives. It sounds vaguely threatening. Any thoughts about the place? I planted every blade of grass here, she says, and it still confuses me. She calls it confusing, shows zero desire to shed light on it. I've heard it helps them grow. I hid a tracker on my lover, he says, to follow her path on the map. It was pathetic. Not so much the sleeping around, but the tiny circles traced in town. Drool runs down his chin. He's beaming. I ignore him. If only it could. White fingerprints stained the glass panel, medium-sized hands. Flower. No gaps, buttons, or switches. It must lead underground. But how? No reason to believe they're linked. My superior was so boastful, she says, bragging about her 50 years of experience. With all due respect, I told her, sounds to me like you've had 1 year of experience 50 times. I bet she didn't like that. We shouldn't talk anymore, she says. He considers each pot on the shelf, hesitates, repeats, rise, rise, rise. I think I hear him mumble. Let me guess, he's the baker. That's not a guess, he says. The bread won't shape itself. Can't argue with that. I ask about my brother. His eyes roll at the mention. Wherever I stand, he says, no matter what I do. There's forever a curious one asking about a lost one. I press him. I've come to accept, he says, that it might be better to forget. I ask how long he's been there. Is that such a crime, he asks. To change my mind? Not to my knowledge. I picture it so clearly, he says, the path to the sea. From A to B to C, at every turn, against my will, I can't help but curve left. I noticed flour on the lift. He whispers, is that where I left my memory? I think he let it slip. An admission he's been under. I offer to fetch his memory for him. But what is it? No point, he says, if I don't even remember what it is. I ask questions, casting a wide net. I've come to accept, he says, that it might be better to forget. He's reluctant to remember. I must jolt his memory. Forgetfulness. Repetition. Complex internal logic that solves very little. It's frustrating, but I feel compelled to help him. Can't bash it out of him. No, he said he left it below. But what is it? He inquires first. How do you access what's left below? This I would like to know. Submit yourself to the Silent One, he says. I've seen the past with my own eyes. Is that a clue? Anonymous figure, clutching scrolls or blueprints of some kind. That feels wrong. I don't see how that helps. Five concentric circles. She bows. Any requests? I have questions. A question is a request, she says. Who is it? The one thing I can't summon is silence, she says. It's not what I meant. Either way, it doesn't help. I mention him. She summons a melody. It's unstructured, as if scrolling through radio stations. I can't locate him, she confesses. Does the place inspire her? It sounds like a bomb or eruption. Then liquid. I don't know how else to describe it. Anything about the depths? The sound takes a somber turn. I don't have a theme, she admits. Either way, that won't open the lift. How do I help Baker remember something? A cluster of notes becomes a phrase. A ballad. Is this Baker's? I seem to recall, she nods. She thanks me. What for? It's a privilege, she says, to spend time in there. Does she mean the music? Helmet? Head? I can't write music, and doubt he reads it. She tears pieces of paper off, chews them, spits and pounds them. She signals that her mouth is full. She signals that her mouth is full. Is he okay? I'm finished, he sobs. I'm no king. Everything I touch turns to feces. I let him wallow in his misery. What I imagine his mind feels like. The musician played me a melody. Might help Baker with his memory. I hum it to myself. this little tune. I remember how it goes now. I hum the song once more. I can't forget it now. I don't think that's his memory. Remember to remember, she says, pretty much to herself. Remember to remember, she says. No reason to believe they're linked. I've heard a tune he might know. He asks, how does it go? I didn't memorize it. Will he follow me to the music room? The bread won't shape itself, he says. Can't bring him to the song. I should bring the song to him. I've forgotten the ballad. Can she play it again for me? There. The musician played me a melody. Might help Baker with his memory. I know it by heart. The musician played me a melody. Might help Baker with his memory. I know it by heart. His melody. I hear it. I hum it. We used to play it on the beach, he says. That's the memory I've left below. Peculiar creature. But I think he knows the way down. Does he remember now? I remember now, he says. Unnumbered sublevels. I notice leaks, unplugged cables. This is legacy technology. Layers built upon layers. Automation without aim. Baker fidgets, gets on my nerves. Can you smell it, he asks. It reeks of the end. Haunted, planted on the spot. Scanning the photograph he picked up from the ground. Is that his memory? I shouldn't be here, he panics. Why would Mason choose this? I'm leaving for the sea. Off he goes again. Forever indecisive. Bouncing between locations. But the name, Mason, dormant inside of me. I've heard it before. A connection to Leo. Same as the sanctum water. M-A-S-O-N. Machinery whirs. A body is flushed out of ancient plumbing. Mutilated between states. Coils dig into my temples. It's working. The water amplifies. I am the antenna. We tune into each other's thoughts. Let's try the person, Mason. The image is fragmented at first. Thoughts congeal. I see it. A faint trace of personhood. We focus on our location. It triggers a strong response. I catch a flurry of linked ideas. A worksite. A flood. An architect. The sequence ends abruptly, as if halted. Two souls crammed into one skull. It's indecent. It wants me to enter a name. Anybody else up there? Contorted, twitching. A feverish bad night's sleep. It's unpleasant in there, inhospitable. Like a great wall surrounds a vortex, the wall screams for me to crash against it. I visualize a worksite. The thought pierces through, unearths buried sediments, accreted over time. It calls for a name, but whose? We see it now. It's too much. The vision trips something. But I extracted it. The missing piece, source of the torment. Mason's accident. Name not found. Why would my brother be up there? I bring Mason back out. Looks like we're back to the original loop. The self erased and reframed. We rebuild the memory from the ground up. It starts with the person, Mason. I see it. A faint trace of personhood. This place. We see the location clearly. Always triggers the same ideas. A worksite. A flood. An architect. Who is the architect? Hard to determine. I feel like we both know. I sense great tenderness. The vision ends. The accident shouldn't be survived. Life hangs by a thread, and yet the thread is respun. It is rebirth. The procedure. All these people around Mason. Our lives become entangled. That's why I'm in the room, covering it for the newspaper. We're very close to memories of Leo. That person cannot be found. Just a child, blurry-eyed. Does he hear me? He's not quite come to yet. I might have gone too far. Yes. I don't know what I'm doing anymore, but I am here. This is me. The name is not found, luckily. Part of the process. Looks like we're back to the original loop. The self erased and reframed. The accident. The images aren't clear. As if they're memories somewhere. Not willing to be born yet. Mason. I see it. A faint trace of personhood. Let's remember the Oasis. We see the location clearly. Always triggers the same ideas. A worksite. A flood. An architect. Who is the architect? I sense great tenderness. The vision ends. The accident. The memory is painful. The procedure. Our lives become entangled. That's why I'm in the room, covering it for the newspaper. A strange mirror. Memories of me that aren't my own. Is that all they see? Is that all I am? We remember now, something happens to me here. I become broken. An engine that only produces one question. But it is me. The reason his name lives on, I ask about Leo endlessly. I may not see the full picture, but I know exactly where to find it. How long have we been doing this? Years, decades, millennia. Leo Dormer, my little brother. This is the night I find him. After so many years apart. The night I learn everything about him. How he turned his life around. How he became a new man. How he made plans for the end. He's expecting me. An old man on his last breath. He says he can't recognize his face. His heart grows heavy with regret. I know exactly how he feels. That's why I'm at his house. To tell him about a place where we can start anew. But he knows it's too late. Like a sun warps space-time, he says, I must distort reality. And I'm afraid eternity would distort me eternally. He begs me not to go. The words ring like a curse. Maybe I should have left when I still had the chance. Already fished out the photograph. That won't help. Does he have a minute? Distress call. Fisherman's ferry. Not ready to leave yet. Power, communication, a self-contained world. Somebody got what they wanted. He asks if I feel better. Heard sobbing in the cabin. I'm fine, I tell him. I used to call it rainwater, he says. It would cheer up my granddaughter. A little rainwater never hurt anyone. I study the strangely lucid person next to me. Realize I've no idea who or what they are. And that for a brief moment, it's the lucidity that matters. Rivers, tears, the sea, he says. It's all the same stuff anyway. Water's a closed system. Sometimes revealed. Sometimes hidden away.